I have spent dozens of hours trying to figure out a track plan for this industrial unit, but now I've got it cracked. Hi, welcome back to Chadwick Model Railway. I'm Charlie. Looking at the broader picture of model railways, we often invest in fleets of wagons and coaches and everything else. But when we run our trains, there kind of doesn't seem to be much logic behind it. If you have a relatively small layout, then you're forced into that. But if you've got a bigger layout and you've got a load of coal trucks, it might make sense that you have a coal depot or a mine. And if you've got a load of tankers, you might have a refinery. Or if you've got a load of containers, you might have a container depot. And it gives your freight purpose because it needs to do something. It needs to run from somewhere to somewhere with your freight, and it kind of makes logical sense. I'd hummed and hawed on my various train setups of what kind of layout, what kind of industry I wanted. I wouldn't mind a container depot, to be perfectly honest, but the crane would be absolutely enormous, and I think it would kind of dominate the layout. So unless I can figure out a smaller crane with a forklift or something and have a minor depot, then I don't think that's quite feasible. I thought about a refinery, but then I don't know, I think I'm leaning to, because I'm a 1968, 1974 modeler, I'm leaning in towards vans. So how do I design an industry around vans? Now, I was sent this detailed track plan from a guy who works in Borneo by the name of Dave, which shows at the bottom edge a goods depot. Now, the goods depot is based on the lines being at the front of the board, whereas actually I'm pushing them towards the back. So I've already started tweaking this design before I've even got a piece of track out. But the actual sense of it, it makes sort of perfect running sense. There's an arrivals and departure loop, and in that loop then you can break up your trains, split down the vans, put them into various sidings for loading and unloading, or to break them out and send them on the road. So here I've flipped Dave's design, and this is the area of the operating well, and over here is where the retaining wall is. So if a train were to come along from the sort of New Chadwick station area, it would come along here and then through a single slip, through a double slip, and then proceed along this line here, which is the arrivals and departures. And the loco would stop around here. The loco can uncouple and then go into the head shunt, or it can uncouple and go off the scene running engine light. To break up and work these vans, a shunter would be parked up on this line, which is considerably longer than shown here, and it would come in, pick up these vans, pull them back, and then feed them again through the double slip into one of these three sidings where they can be worked, unloaded, reloaded, and eventually it would pull them back on the arrivals and departures line, and the train would be reassembled. A loco could then come back in at either end and take the train either off this way, back through this double slip, single slip, and off on the up line, or indeed through here, through another single slip and away. Either way, it leads to good shunting operations, and shunting is something we all do too little of these days. Getting back onto these boards, I'll take you through now which points I think will work and the kind of logic behind a small industry. Now, behind this retaining wall, there's enough room for 3 tracks of the fiddle yard. If you remember, I've mentioned that I want a 12-track fiddle yard, which will take it right out to here on a different board. But those are the first 3. And I popped a line all the way along these boards to show where this retaining wall comes out to. Which then leaves me with what to do in this area and how to sort of pace it out. As these 2 lines come from the viaduct, if I use a medium radius or a long radius right hand point, then I can bring out another line and form a passing loop that would run down all the way pretty much up against the retaining wall. And if you size that up first, then using the Pico 6-foot weigh gauges, then all you need do then is bring these are currently sort of just tacked down. You can then space it out so you get your track in the right area. So that's the distances that streamlined track would sit at. Obviously they've decided not to stand up. But that's their correct distances. So it will give me a passing loop where I can just park up a train, you know, a set of tankers or whatever that are trundling around. And then I can now plan how to bring the lines in and out of this goods depot. Once we got this point in to enable me to have the passing loop, what do we need next? Well, a medium radius right hand point will take the train from the depot. It will take the train from the up line, and then we need to cross the down line, so we will need in there a single slip. I'll explain to that in a second. A single slip, and then another point in here to provide me with a head shunt. Now the reason to use a single slip here is because once your train is prepared and it's ready to trundle off, it will go through this single slip and away down up the down line. If a train needs to come into the depot from the up line, then it will come across and straight through the single slip. But what it physically can't do is come across the single slip and through the wrong point motor being set, end up facing the train on the down line. So by using a single slip rather than a double slip, you rule out the possibility of using an upline train to come across here and go face on with a downline train, if that makes any sense at all. So that's the way you want, that's why you would use a single slip here rather than a double slip. It's just a simple safety feature. So I would need, like I say, 1, 2, 3 points and a single slip. And of course that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 point motors. The costs start to grow. So looking at it from the other end, here's that passing loop, and you will need a long left hand to get back onto the main upline, and also to go from the storage depot and to come out to get onto the main upline, you'll need to pass through a double slip and a single slip and then across that point onto the main line. Traffic coming into the depot from the main down line would obviously come through that single slip and the double slip and then go into the main line there, which is your arrivals and departures line. And this line is critical. When you come in and park it up, you will then need another loco, perhaps a shunter, to come from this line to go into that line to take those wagons and bring them back up here and then shuffle them in to the rest of the sidings to be sorted. So in summary, what have I got to do? Well, there's 8 points and 3 slips, which is obviously quite a lot of work. This large expanse at this end will remain empty for now. I don't necessarily believe in just filling it all with track. I don't think it's naturally the best way. Sometimes having more scenics and building infrastructure adds so much more to the layout. But hopefully you can see some sense in the design of how it should hang together. Now, uncoupling is bound to be an issue, and of course, how would we do it without using the hand of God? So what I thought I would do is invest in one of those KD electromagnetic uncouplers and put it on this line here, which is the main arrivals and departures line. But just for now, if you imagine this is that line, what I've done, I've just popped in a KD magnet, but underneath here what I will put in is this, is the solenoid magnet itself. And if I run that high mech just over the top of that magnet a second, which isn't glued down, so hopefully I don't get any derailments here. And if I press function 9, is an uncouple shuffle. So now I can take the loco away and leave those wagons where they are. And the uncouple shuffle isn't just an ESU chip function, but many other manufacturers do this. But it's with that uncouple shuffle that I can then move that locomotive away and then bring onto the other end of this train the shunter, and then pull these wagons back and then sort them out into their relevant lines, rebuild the train and perhaps send it on its way, or indeed send it out the other way, reversing the guards van away on its outward journey. We'll just take another look at that uncouple shuffle with the high mech again, but this time with the sound switched on. The uncouple shuffle. Which is obviously quite a sensible facility to have, but one worth thinking about if you're into more realistic model railway operation. Well, at least I've sorted out now the way ahead for this industrial site. I must confess it's been a dilemma, and I've walked into so many, I've gone down so many dead ends really, of making mistakes and looking at one or the other, and then the buildings that were suitable and weren't suitable. And this is the only major piece of track work to be done before the fiddle yard and the branch station. And this is weeks and weeks of work, but all I've got to do now is I can now nail down. I can now fit properly the approach curves, and then working from the passing loop that goes next to the retaining wall, and then I can then space out the up and down main lines, and then the distances between the rest of the track on the goods depot. So that'll all kind of work out well now. It was just trying to get that together. At the other end with the hillside now, I can finish the rocks off and the tunnel section, because now the curves will be in the right place. I actually know what's going to how it's going to take shape. So I think it's coming together. If you've got any points to add, then please leave them in the comments below. I do read all my comments and answer as many questions as possible. And one of the questions I keep getting asked is about cable sizes and power and that kind of stuff. All of my droppers and that are under 6 foot long are in 702 cable. That's 7 strands of 0.02 millimeters. The next size up is 1602, isn't it? I think. And then if it's over 6 foot long, then I'll switch to 1602, and then above that I got 4 amp and 8 amp cable. If you saw the video that I did a few weeks ago talking about the alpha meter from DCC Concepts, there should be a link here. In that video it actually showed how little current that this layout actually draws, but part of that is because of the cable sizes, because if I'd use 702 everywhere, then you get a substantial voltage drop, running right through the layout. But because I use reasonably sized cables, and your cable sizes should be dictated really by the size of your controller and the length of track that you own. If you've got into power districts, it makes it more complicated, but it is easier to manage, but that's a very kind of personal thing. I'd like to take the opportunity, as usual, to thank my patrons. Without your support, I couldn't do this. And if you want to subscribe, then there's the button. I do like subscribers. A video here and here. Take care. See you Friday, 12 o'clock. Don't be late. Take care. Bye-bye.